before I share with you my super secret weapon that I think all crocheters should know and should use, I need you to promise me something. I need you to promise me that as soon as I say this word, you're not going to instantly click off this video and find something else to watch. Because I know that once I say this one word, people are instantly going to have a thought or opinion that is going to be generally negative, and I think it's because we just haven't educated ourselves on it or known how to utilize it and or to the best of its ability to make it our secret weapon. And that word is swatch. I am going to be starting a 4-video series, a 4-part series, talking about swatches, what they are, how to use them, when you would use them, and what you can get out of a swatch, what information you can get out of a swatch. And honestly, I didn't start using swatches till 2 years ago. I'm 38 years old as of the recording of this video. I've been crocheting since I was 4. My mom has pictures. And for the longest time, I felt the same way you did. Swatches are an extra step. They get in the way. I want to just get started on my project and start enjoying the crochet process. I don't even know how to use a swatch or what information I can get out of a swatch. So I'm not even going to bother with it. It's an extra step. I don't want to do it. And whenever somebody tells me I should do it, I just think negatively of, no, I want to dive into the project. Just tell me the information I need to know and let me go and let me enjoy the process. However, 2 years ago, something dawned on me. I had started my YouTube channel and I was making projects, and I was starting to get a lot of people asking me for variations on my projects. Whether it was a lot of blankets, because I didn't start making tops until this year, but a lot of blankets, it's like, okay, well, I want to make your blanket, but I want to make it in this size. How many chains do I need to use or create to make this blanket? Or I really want to make your blanket. How much yarn do I need to buy? And I was like, I don't know, like, I have no idea. And that's when I was like, I have to figure this out for my people. I have to figure this information out for my followers. How do you do this? And that's where I learned the swatch method, and I really started utilizing the swatch method to its max ability. And when I learned this technique, all of a sudden, it was my secret weapon. And I could figure out how many chains I needed in the foundation row to make whatever size blanket I wanted to make. I learned how many rows I would need for that blanket to meet that blanket's dimension. I learned approximately how much yarn I was going to need to complete whatever size blanket that I wanted to complete from a swatch. And I was like, mind blown. Like, this was crazy. And then I was able to even take that information to my tops. So the Tiffany top and the Nubu tank top, and honestly, whatever top that I create, this is how I determine how many chains you're gonna need, how many rows you're gonna need for all of the different sizes of tops. I don't make one of every size and figure out, okay, well, I just made one of every size blanket and one of every size top, and this is how much yarn I used, and this is how many chains and how many rows. No, that's too much work, especially when we got to keep projects coming and keep things going. So I'm going to be sharing with you my secret weapon on how I found this information out, how I used the swatch, when you can use it, when you don't need to use it. I mean, honestly, there's times when you don't need it, but when to use it, how to use it, why to use it. And I'm hoping, and my big hope is that I can help all of you, so many of you. I mean, my most commonly asked questions are, all right, Tiffany, I want to make your blanket, but I want to make it in this size. How many chains do I need to make? And I'm like, I don't know. Or, Tiffany, I want to make your blanket. How much yarn do I need to buy? Because I need to know, because I'm going to the store and I need to know how much yarn to buy. I don't know. But if I can show you how to do the swatch method, all of a sudden I've empowered you to figure out all of that information on your own. And it's also very difficult for me to sometimes answer those questions because of yarn tension and crochet tension. My stitch sizes that I create may be very different than the stitches that you create. So I may do all this work figuring out this information for you of the chains and the amounts of yarn, and then I give it to you, but because your crochet tension is different than mine, you need less chains or more chains, or you need less yarn or more yarn, and then all of a sudden my information may not be accurate to you and you may get frustrated. So it's like one of those things where I can't really help you sometimes, but I can educate you on how to figure it out for yourself. And so I'm really hoping that this empowers everybody and that you do give this a chance. Please watch these 4 videos. I'm going to release them one video every Tuesday. So I'm making 4, so the next 4 Tuesdays. If you're watching the replay, I'm gonna put all of these videos in a playlist so that way you can just boom, 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 and watch them and get the most out of this. But I'm really excited about this because this is also the entry point if you want to start writing patterns, creating patterns, which I know a lot of you want to start making that next step on how to write your own patterns, how to create your own patterns. Knowing how to do this is going to be huge and a great entryway for us to enter into the pattern creating process. So I hope you're ready for this. We are going to begin. This video is video 1, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you the very definition of what a swatch is. All right, let's go ahead and start by just defining what a swatch even is. A swatch is a small section of a pattern that you can use to check your gauge, to check if the pattern is something that you even like. There's just so much that a swatch can do for you. And honestly, I need to use a swatch so much more because there is oftentimes I fall into this trap. And let me know if you fall into the same trap as well. I will find a yarn. And I'll be like, you're gorgeous, you're beautiful, I have to make a blanket with you. And then I'll find the crochet hook that will pair well with the size, and I will find a pattern that I'm like, that is perfect, I love that pattern, it's super beautiful, it'll work great with this gorgeous yarn I want to play with. And then I just dive into the project and I make this really long foundation row chain, and I work like 4, 5, 6 rows of this pattern, and then I look at it and I'm like, I don't like that. It doesn't work together at all. And now I have wasted all this time on this project. I've now taken this gorgeous skein and I need to frog this whole thing and roll it up, and it's not so beautiful anymore. Like, the colors are pretty, but it's like, oh no, you're just kind of like tainted now. Or what if your gorgeous, beautiful yarn is not easily froggable, and now as you're attempting to take this project apart, the yarn is knotting up or it's clinging to each other and it's not willing to frog, it's not willing to come apart, and now you have to cut the yarn and toss all that work that you just did because it doesn't frog and you can't reuse the yarn, and now you've wasted yarn. It's so sad. It is so sad. But you would have known that. You would have known all that and saved yourself all of that time and saved yourself all of that yarn that you now wasted if you would have just made a small little section using that yarn, that crochet hook, and that pattern, and decided, yep, that is perfect, or, oh, I don't actually like that, I'm not gonna do that. That's me. I need to do that more often, and I'm thinking that's a couple of you as well. So that's one thing that a swatch is amazing for, it's great for. But it's also good for you to determine how many stitches will be within a certain measurement for your pattern, and how many rows will be in a certain measurement for your pattern, so you can take that information and you can do a lot with it, okay? But when I see swatch videos and when I see swatch definitions and in books and stuff like that, a lot of times they define swatch as a section that you have made of the pattern that is a 4-inch wide by 4-inch long section. And sometimes they will encourage you to go longer than that, make a 6-inch wide by 6-inch long section, and then only measure inside the work 4 inches wide by 4 inches long, okay? And sometimes you can do that, like taking, for example, a swatch using simple basic stitches that are a 1-to-1 stitch ratio. In this example here, it's all single crochet stitches. And I can, like, if I measure out the whole thing is like 4 1/4 inches wide by 4 inches long. Okay, I think I tried to hit those dimensions as best as possible. So when I measure out, I don't have to go the full 4 1/4. I can even measure 2 and just come in here, come into the work. and align my ruler with one of the stitches so I can identify that as a stitch space. And then I will count how many stitches are within 2 inches. And I'll count that. And I'll write on a piece of paper next to me. I'll have like this whole like notebook next to me. I'll be like, 2 inches wide equals this many stitches. And then I'll come and I'll go long ways and I'll align my ruler an inch increment with the line. So I know, okay, there's a row, there's a row. How many rows are within a 2-inch increment? So 2 inches equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 rows. And I have this information and we will use that later. You know, what we do with that, we'll use that later. Now, the reason why we want to work on the inside or measure from the inside of the work is because that will give us the most accurate stitch tension, stitch size that you can possibly get. Anybody else run into, and I know a lot of people do this, run into your foundation rows, your first few foundation rows, you're kind of getting the tension started, it's slowly building up, and then when you get to like row 4, that's when you've really gotten a rhythm. And all of a sudden from row 4 on, your stitch tension is the same, but everything to begin with is kind of like either too big or too small and working up, and then, oh, we found our place. So that is what we're getting at with the swatches, is sometimes if you work right off the foundation row or count the foundation row, those stitches may be a little too tight or maybe a little too loose for gauge in the sense of counting the measurement of those stitches. And the same thing with the top or the sides of the work. The sides in particular, maybe there is something tighter or looser in the sides. It happens. So if you can get right in the middle is going to be your best gauge or your best consistent tension to give you the best numbers to work with. Okay. Now, if you want to, you can absolutely, oh, my work is 4 1/4 inches wide. So 4 1/4 equals how many stitches were in that entire row. And oh, my work is 4 inches long. 4 inches equals how many rows was I able to make? Do not count the foundation row. Do not count the foundation row chain as a row. Very important. That's not a row. That's just the foundation. Row 1 is going to be the first row you count and then work off of that. So here, if I were to work up or count all of the rows in this section right here, I would not count my foundation. I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and count on my rows. So I hope that helps people. Okay, so that works great, fine and dandy with a pattern that's like a 1-to-1 stitch ratio. Cool. Unfortunately though, there's a lot of patterns that have multiple stitch count requirements, such as this is the closed scallop stitch that we've done in a Technique Tuesday. So I hope you recognize it. Now in this case, this stitch, in order to make it work, to make the stitch actually happen, you have to work up a multiple of 6 chains and then at the end +2 to get you onto the foundation row, okay? Or to get you onto row 1. I can't just say here, okay, so where's 4 inches? Here's 4 inches. Okay, 4 inches is this many chains. Okay, so I now know if I want to make something that's 20 inches wide and I want to use this pattern, I need to make this many stitches for that to work, because in 4 inches, there's this many stitches and then work. If you do that, you're not taking into consideration that if you don't add those extra 2 chains there, the stitch isn't going to work, and you're going to end up having an end that cuts at a really weird spot, and then you're going to get frustrated and the pattern doesn't work. It doesn't work. So sometimes you can't just say 4 inches is this many stitches. That's not going to do good things for you in the pattern. It's not going to work with the pattern. You need to work with the multiple stitch count requirement. So here I have worked 3 multiples of 6. So I worked 3 repeat sections. So I have 18 plus 2. So working up that. And in order to make this happen, this 3 repeat of this pattern to make the pattern work, I get 4.5 inches. So for me, I have to write on my piece of paper 4.5 inches equals, and then I will say, what does it take to get, or what did I chain? What did I chain in the foundation row to get this consistent 4.5 inches? Okay, I chained 18 plus 2. So 4.5 inches equals 18 plus 2 chains. Very, very important, okay? Because I worked that many multiples. You need to know what the multiple was, okay? And then with the width, or sorry, the height. So the height, I have basically exactly 4 inches again. So how many rows did I work up in order to get 4 inches? So 4 inches equals this many rows. Now, why do I go from the foundation row to get my chain count and not just work or count how many stitches are within the pattern? It's because that's going to be really hard. How many double crochets, single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, that may be very different than how many chains I needed to start with in order to make this pattern happen. So sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's not. Let's just kind of avoid worrying about what's happening inside the pattern and worry about how to make that pattern happen with that multiple stitch count requirement in the beginning foundation row. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And we will talk about that a little bit more within the next 2 videos. But then thirdly, I wanted to show you this. This right here is a chevron pattern. This is another example that I can't use a 4-inch by 4-inch section to get my dimensions. One repeat to make this one section of the chevron work is 16, it's a multiple of 16 plus 2. So if I were to measure this, it only measures 3.5 inches wide. But if I were to go the full 4-inch extent, then I would be cutting into like just a portion of the next section, and that is not going to help me. That's not going to help me move forward. That's not going to help me utilize that information in any way. So now I know, oh, this one chevron section is 3.5 inches wide. Now if I do another section, another section, another section, another section, I will know, okay, 3.5 plus 3.5 plus 3.5 plus 3.5, and I'll keep working that width dimension until I know how long the item is that I'm making. So that helps you so much. With the width of this though, I want to point this out. You're not going to measure the very top of the chevron to the very tip of the chevron. That's not the width or the height of the actual stitches themselves. You want to come to the side of the work, push your work against the ruler or against the measuring tool so that the top is at the very top here, aligned, and then we're only measuring to where the stitches stop here, and that shows for me 4 inches. Okay, so this I could easily say 4 inches equals this many rows. Okay, so that'll help me with dimension. I highly don't recommend you come to the center, because here my center says 5 inches. My centers here, they dip down more with those empty chains that I didn't put anything in. And so it's just a different measurement because of what we're doing with those missed skipped stitches. I would highly recommend that you go with the side of your work to measure and not the middle tip, the middle point, okay? Because they're going to be different. Go off of this one that's more consistent as you make your way down. Okay, so that's all I'm saying. So hopefully that makes sense when it comes to swatches. A swatch is, again, just a small section of the pattern that you are making. And it does not have to be 4-inch by 4-inch. It doesn't have to be. It could literally be, you could make a swatch that was like this big. If you wanted to make like a swatch that's this big and then use the dimensions on the inside of it, or just go ahead and say, okay, this big swatch that I made, this huge swatch, is this many chains in the foundation row, obviously made the pattern happen, the pattern's working, and then this many rows in within this many inches wide, this many inches tall. So that I hope was helpful. That I hope will help you at least get started in the understanding of what a swatch is, what a gauge is, and in the next few videos, we're going to take that information that we got from this, and I'm going to show you all of the amazing things you can do with it. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please push that thumbs up button, and please look for the next video, video number 2 of my swatch series. Keep this going because so far you're doing awesome. I hope I've got you hooked and that I've got you interested and curious. I hope I got you curious. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you at the next one. Bye.